think he should.
So should you. So,
Yeah. I'm trying to say a lot. Yeah. They
Exactly.
use supposed to too. In community.
Yeah, exactly. And so you two have grandchildren.
Good. All right. move on. All right, it is Tuesday, June 30th, 2026, and I will call this meeting of the Minnesota Supervised Release Board to order. We will do a roll call of members. Member.
Anytime now. Oh, here.
I'm the advocate.
Okay, member Christine Bray,
Here.
member Tony Carter.
Here.
New member, by the way, welcome aboard. Member Andrew Larson. Here. And member Cheryl Ramstad is absent and excused. Paul Schnell is present. Let the record reflect that a quorum is met. Action in these cases requires a majority vote. Any split votes would be decided by the vote of the chair or the commissioner. And with that, we'll move into the first case. That is Kurt Frank.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Rebecca Holmes Larson, Executive Officer of Hearings and Release and the Supervised Release Board. We're here today to review Kurt James Frank, who is participating through live stream video from the Minnesota Correctional Facility in Oak Park Heights. Mr. Frank also has an advocate participating today. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Klein. Can you hear us?
He's saying yes.
Thank you. The commissioner has introduced all the members who are present here today, so I will bypass that area. Our records indicate that on July 3rd, 1996, in the city of Cold Spring, Minnesota, sheriff's deputies were conducting a welfare check on 2 children. Upon entry to the residence, officers observed 2 male children ages 4 and 6 years old lying in large pools of blood and observed a knife wound to their throats. Both boys were deceased. Officers also observed Mr. Frank laying in a pool of blood and saw a large knife laying immediately alongside him. He was breathing and was given medical care. He later reported to officers that he had slashed his son's throats and attempted to end his own life. On January 2nd, 1997, James Frank Kurt was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences for first-degree murder in Stearns County District Court. Mr. Frank has been previously reviewed by the commissioner and his advisory panel once and was continued for a future review. Today's review represents his second review after serving approximately 30 years of incarceration on his first life sentence. Mr. Frank's minimum parole eligibility date on this first life sentence will occur on July 3rd of 2026. Thank you. I turn this matter over to the board. Commissioner.
Good morning, Mr. Frank. How are you today?
I'm doing just fine.
Okay. I'd like to start out by asking what it is you'd like to see happen as a result of today's meeting.
I'd like to see that I get released from this first one. I also would like to see that I would like to stay here at Oak Park Heights to start my second sentence and continue my good work that I do down in TCU and continue to do that. That's what I would like.
Okay. Can you talk about how you manage being incarcerated this long and knowing that you have this other sentence ahead of you?
Well, I came to, realization when I was in the county jail, I had to make a choice whether either to accept a full imprisonment or continue to try to hurt myself. Because, you know, at that point in time, I didn't want to live at the same time. So I chose to, you know, survive and, continue to, you know, take the imprisonment. And while that, in that case, to not be a disruptive kind of a person and to, you know, accept my confinement and as it is. And that's what I have done.
When you think about and look back on what happened, what you did today, through the eyes of today, 30 years later, what insights have you gained into what happened on that particular day?
Well, the insight I'd have taken out of it was a very, very, very stupid thing to do. And a very selfish thing of me to do. But at that time, I wasn't in the right frame of mind, and the things that were happening around me were just was just overwhelming. And at that second thought of doing the actions, there was no, if I died, there's no questioning as to why I did what I did, you know. So if I died, then I wouldn't have to answer the questions. I didn't, you know, the thought of, oh, what if you do survive, and the questions that do get answered, you know, how are you going to answer them? You know, like, why did I do what I did? There's a number of reasons, and everything that pertained throughout our whole life that we were together all came crashing down on that one day. And it was just too much.
Do you get a sense of, you know, obviously you took the lives of your two sons, young sons. What do you imagine the broader impact of your offense to be?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question, the broader impact.
So who was affected and how by what you did?
Everybody, my parents, Angie, her family, everybody, my friends, my relatives, anybody that I associated with, the community that I lived in. You know, I just thought I was being betrayed by them, which, you know, was a fantasy on my part as far as my thinking goes and stuff. It seemed like I went around and everybody knew what was happening, but, you know, but me, you know, and that just became overwhelming. I do realize that. I mean, it happened on my dad's birthday of all things. So, you know, and then 3 years later, my dad passed away. So I kind of felt guilty about that. You know, the stresses that I put on my family and stuff that impacted them very greatly. Yes.
Do you, when you think back now, you know, you talked about everything kind of coming together and really collapsing at that moment, leading to what happened. Do you think your motivation, certainly, what was it directed at your kids or your two boys, or was it really intended to hurt Angie or someone else?
No, it wasn't really intended to hurt anybody. I think the overwhelming factor was my self-pride of my kids being raised by another gentleman. She was already in another relationship, because that's how it all began. And that being raised, and then I think the overwhelming thing was the courts, you know, ordering me to pay like $750 per kid for child support, and I would get them on the weekend. We were already out of money, so, you know, at that point, it was like, I would just be a weekend caretaker and I'd hand them over $750 so they could go out and run and party and stuff like that. So that all played a big factor in it and stuff. So there was no ill will of I'm gonna hurt them, or the typical adage of if I can't have them, she can't have them. There was none of that. I mean, there was no violence in our family as we were growing up. So this was an out of the blue kind of thing. I mean, put everybody in shock, because anybody that knew me, and that's why I brought Mike in, because Mike is a high school colleague of mine. We grew up together in the town of Melrose. And we did a lot of, we hung around a lot. So this kind of violence was not in my nature.
It's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that there wasn't some of that. When I hear you talk about some of the, I wouldn't say motivations, but some of the factors that kind of weighed, whether it was the money or the limited time. It seems like a lot to put on two kids. I mean,
Yes.
and so I'm trying to wrap my head around that, and I'm wondering if or how you do.
I'm in the same position you are. I wrap my head around it too every day when it's there in my head, and I just, I wonder myself why I had to resort to that kind of action. And there is no particular answer for it. It happened, and now I have to live with it.
Okay. I want to just, I guess the last question I would have is, you've been incarcerated for 30 years,
Mhm.
and what changes have you made in your life during the term of your incarceration, and
Well,
how did that come about?
the changes that I've made, I did turn to God. I asked God for forgiveness, which He has already, because He sent His Son to the cross for us. So that helps out a lot. And the changes that I've made is to try to find something within the prison system that will help me get through each day, through each year. And I think I've done that while I was here at Oak Park Heights here, with just with what I have accomplished as far as getting a job, staying out of trouble, making the money, and then helping my nephews out and stuff like that when their kids were growing up and stuff like that. So without my having to make money and stuff, I wouldn't have been able to send their children birthday presents and birthday cards and stuff. So
I want to do I do want to just acknowledge your institutional record and the work you're doing. Are you in MHU, or are you in the TCU?
I'm in TCU.
TCU, so
Yeah.
the Transitional Care Unit.
Yeah.
You provide some support there for the medical staff.
Medical staff, yes, and inmates that come through that facility, which we handle from all the other facilities.
Yeah.
They come through, and I talk with them. There's a number of gentlemen. We have, there's a blind gentleman down there. We got a couple gentlemen that are paralyzed. I help them out, and if they want to go outside, I take them outside. I wheel them around the track, and I offer whatever assistance I can within the limits and the policies of the TCU unit.
All right, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
With that, I would just open it up to questions that any other board members may have. During, oh, go ahead.
Well, I don't have a question. I did want to acknowledge though how your adjustment in prison and a pretty realistic attitude about the rest of your life. So
You're welcome.
I do have a couple of questions. Some of them kind of follow up to some of the questions posed by the commissioner. And I also want to acknowledge your prison adjustment has been very, or largely very positive. So have you had much interaction with behavioral health, the mental, any of the mental health staff within the facility to kind of take a deeper dig into, whatever these circumstances were that led up to the offense?
When I did work in MHU for a little bit, and I did have contact with the behavioral science, and I did go through, critical thinking and anger management and all that stuff, when I was there a few years, about 15 years ago. I always have access to them. So if there was ever a major big issue that whatever happens with me, I'm always able to reach out, but I really haven't sat down with a psychologist or anything like that, for myself. No.
Is that something have you considered doing that? And I'll just be honest with you. I'm a father.
Mm-hmm.
So the offense is incomprehensible.
I agree.
So the reason I pose the question is for your own benefit, to dig into like what was it leading up to it, because even the response you gave the commissioner, some of that just falls a little bit flat for me. Like there hasn't been a real deep evaluation of like what was going on. And I understand that it may be something painful. And I pose the question not because I am of the belief that you should wallow in it every single day. That's not why I pose the question, but to have greater insight into what was happening and what was kind of the motivation leading up to it. I would just like to hear more of that because I think there's something missing.
Okay.
So that's an observation as much as anything.
Yeah.
So I would, regardless of what happens here, like I would encourage you to continue that. My other question, I understand you have participated in restorative justice in the past. You've not done the apology letter, which I also acknowledge not a requirement.
Right.
But do you think there's anything that would be potentially of value to you to participate? So not only to you, but to those that have been impacted. Do you think there's value in doing that?
Yes, I do think there would be great value, and I have been working on it within myself. I've talked with my friend and my other friends that do come in to see me, yeah, I've been seriously thinking about it. I've also joined they posted a workshop for the restorative apology letter. So I'm getting to the point where I'm really seriously, going to really seriously think about and doing the apology letter. There's a workshop I'm going to be attending in July to help me get going on it, and then I'll be in the process of completing those goals. Yes.
Okay.
So,
And I guess,
sorry,
go ahead.
As far as talking with psychologist or something like that, and like you said, getting deeper into the deep thoughts, that might not, for me, I think it would dwell too much into the pain and would really want me to cause to want to hurt myself and be where that, be not here anymore, so to speak. And that's probably why I haven't, the psychologist that I did talk to says I use my work as what is the word? Let me get the word up for you. Avoidance. Now, I don't use my work to avoidance. I use my work as a benefit, I think. Because of the help I do. I've also worked with dementia patients and help them out. And so that gives me gives me a reward of what I do down in TCU.
So that,
I don't want to go down in that deep hole of where I was back in July of '96.
certainly, nor am I suggesting that, and I want to make sure that that's clear. Like that's not at all what my suggestion is.
Right, I understand.
So, okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna turn to your advocate and support person, Mike. I want to just say thank you for being here. I believe you're probably the one who has had a history of visiting and over the course of time, and I appreciate that as well. I know it's always a great value for people. Is he still there?
He is.
His connection's been in and out, Commissioner.
Okay, all right, perfect.
He's gonna have to unmute himself as well.
Mike, can you unmute yourself there on your side? We can, if you can hear us.
I can hear you. There you go. How's that?
There we go. Yeah, perfect. We can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome.
Mike, again, I want to say thanks for being here, and I want to just open the floor to you to provide your thoughts regarding, the changes you've seen in Mr. Franco over the course of time.
Sure. Sure. Well, let me give you the little history here. I've known Kurt my whole entire life. Pretty much, he moved into town and we wrestled together. We went to guards together. We went to basic training together. He got married. I separated. Kurt has always been level-headed, never flying off the handle, as far as I've known. And he never wanted to beat nobody up. He was always just really mellow and just really wanted no drama, be by himself. When he went to prison, he found Jesus, and anybody be in Christ, he's a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. When you get saved, it changes your life. It changes your attitude. It changes a lot of things. That's what I think is the biggest thing on Kurt, because he got saved. And I see him in prison, and he is institutionalized. He is in the system. He does have to watch his back. He does have to, deal with some people, but he's always very, very level-headed in my eyes. He's never, he never gets mad, and he's into Jesus. He gets up at 3:30 in the morning and watches Les Feldick, and then he goes back to bed, and then he likes work. And Kurt has always, he was in the National Guards for 14 years, up until the time of that, until he murdered his kids. He was at Golden Plum for 12 years. He was solid. He never moved. He wants to stay at one place, and he wants to work, and that's been Kurt his whole life. But he's still the same Kurt that I know of, only but with the sin on with the murder. I don't know if that made any sense at all.
It does. It does. It's helpful to have that context and background as well. And again, I just appreciate your support of Mr. Franco over the course of time. It's a long term incarceration, and I got to believe that part of his being able to manage, that is because of you and your continued presence in his life. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and like, yeah, yeah, I was gonna say something, but I forget what I was just.
Okay, not a problem at all. Well, you know, at this time, Mr. Frank, before the board begins discussion and deliberation about next steps, I want to briefly open the floor to you for any final comment.
I really have, other than just, you know, I like where I'm at. I like the job that I'm doing. It's rewarding for me. It keeps me at peace. Uh, that's about all I have. That's all I wish for to happen at this meeting today, you know. Whether you deny me parole or send it off for another 15 years or so, my whole thing is, you know, I like to work, I like to help people out, and TCU gives me that opportunity. And it keeps me on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, I appreciate it too. I know that, you know, the transitional care unit, you get, you know, certainly medical cases, but you also have, you know, a number of people who end up there in hospice type settings.
Yes.
And so, you know, your help and your participation and some of that is, you know, can create value for the people that are going through that alone. So appreciate that. With this, I'm going to close the portion of the discussion, and during board discussion and deliberation, the board will not entertain questions or allow interruptions. And with that, I would open this to the board for discussion of next steps.
Well, my thinking is pretty pragmatic at this point. I don't see a reason why we wouldn't parole him to a second sentence. And I'm not sure, so that would be my motion, parole, so he can move on to a second sentence. I don't know if we can weigh in. I'm not sure on Oak Park Heights, in that he continue in TCU, but personally, if it gives meaning to him, I hope he can stay there.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I would second that.
All right, discussion.
Thank you. I also can absolutely support that Mr. Frank would be able to move on from this sentence.
Sorry.
Thank you. I would support that Mr. Frank be able to move on from this sentence to his second life sentence. I find it to be good that he has been able to accept his status of imprisonment, that he has found some peace, whether benefit or avoidance, however we might look at it, in the work and service that he does for other incarcerated folks who are at Oak Park Heights. He has made himself of great value to the community and to society in that way. I would hope that he would be able to maintain himself at Oak Park Heights. I know that a decision will be made by DOC in that regard. I think that it will be imperative that wherever he is placed, one would be able to assess his ability to provide contribution, because it is that contribution which is so important, helpful, and I believe constructive for the balance of his life. And I would also share my appreciation that he has been able to turn inward, outward toward his faith in representation of the best that he can do and be for community for the balance of his life. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I would. As far as just kind of potentially adding to the motion, or what I would like to see, potentially some, kind of going to my line of questioning. I think there would potentially be value in him, seeking out, behavioral health, just to, because I think the insight does fall short, if I'm being honest. I would like to see greater insight, into the circumstances. One of the things that struck me as reviewing the packet is, some of the things that were said shortly after the commission of the offense. If couldn't see the children, if it was only going to be a weekend thing, then didn't want anyone to like that. So there's kind of this whole theme of controlling environment, and even now in the letter, and wanting to make sure that he stays in Oak Park. Like there's kind of a theme there. So I would just really like him to kind of dig into that a little bit more, and maybe gain some insight, some additional insight. So that is my only additional comment.
Okay, and I just would just say that, I think the restorative justice conversation and his willingness to kind of continue to work and pursue digging deeper into what that apology letter may be, and all of the RJ stuff could be worthwhile. All right. Just for the record, since because it is a DOC and place, I would be supportive of the recommendation that Mr. Frank stay at Oak Park Heights. And obviously, I would like to see that as for as long a term as that value exists. But obviously, my term here is limited, short, and so that it can be changed by the commissioner that successes is my successor. And but in the meantime, and until that time, I'd like to see him stay where he's at. So we do have a motion and a second on the table with some of those conditions of work being, that is encouraged to explore behavioral health for a deeper insight, and which arguably may make him a better helper, as well as address his own insight areas. Participating in the restorative justice side, remain discipline-free, and continue his service to others. With that, I would call for the vote to the motion. Board Member Bray,
Yes.
Board Member Carter,
Yes.
Board Member Larson,
Yes.
and Schnell votes yes. The motion passes unanimous. Mr. Frank, your parole will be effective July 3rd of 2026. And at which time you will begin service of your second consecutive life sentence. And you've heard the other conditions that we put in place. We'd like to see you explore, and would encourage you to do so, to make the most of your time in custody. Any questions?
No, not at this time. I'd like to thank you all for that opportunity. I will seek out what he recommended. I have no objection to it, sitting down and talking to somebody, and maybe get a better insight of what you said. I don't object to it. So I'm gonna work on the apology letter first, and then we'll look at that. And at the same time, I can do that too. It may coincide with each other. I might get some insight from both, and able to be able to finish this apology letter.
Can I just, this is not a condition, but just a point of encouragement. When you get to that point where you've done some of those things, if you could send a letter down to HRU that could be shared with the board, because I think it would be interesting to hear what that experience was like for you and what, if any, insights you gained as a result of that. Just because it's helpful for the board members to kind of know, what things people may get out of this. So I would just ask that when that day comes,
Okay.
nothing time specific, but when that day comes, that you share your thoughts with the board, and HR, you can make sure that gets distributed to the members. Okay?
Yes, I can do that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Frank, I wish you well, and appreciate you being here today.
And thank you.
Take care.
The water is in the middle of town.
Okay,
Have a few minutes. I'm gonna put the brakes slide up.
okay.
Can you hear me in Stillwater?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, wonderful. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bergeron. We'll get started here in just a moment. Here we go.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rebecca Holmes Larson, Executive Officer of Hearings and Release and the Supervised Release Board. We are here today to review Joseph John Bergeron, who's participating through live stream video from the Minnesota Correctional Facility in Stillwater. Here with me at the Minnesota Department of Corrections Central Office is our Commissioner and Chair of the Supervised Release Board, Mr. Paul Schnell, along with board members Andrew Larson, Christine Bray, and Tony Carter. Our records indicate on September 15th, 1988, Mr. Bergeron and two juvenile accomplices entered into the Minneapolis, Minnesota residence of Thomas Berger with the intent to commit burglary. Mr. Berger was involved in a relationship with Mr. Bergeron's sister. During the burglary, Bergeron stabbed Mr. Berger 4 times in the back, 2 times in the chest, and 2 times in the abdomen, causing his death. Prior to his death, Mr. Berger was able to identify Mr. Bergeron as the one who stabbed him. On April 11th of 1989, Joseph John Bergeron was sentenced to life imprisonment by Hennepin County District Court after having been found guilty of first-degree murder. Mr. Bergeron was originally reviewed by the Commissioner of Corrections and his advisory panel on September 11th of 2002 for his 14-year initial review. He was continued for a future review in 3 years. Bergeron was transitioned through minimum custody in the work release program and then paroled on February 10th of 2011. He was restructured 2 times while in the community for violations of his conditions of release. Then on October 23rd of 2014, he was found in violation of his conditions of release for new criminal behavior, specifically use of intoxicants, driving under the influence, interfering with police, and fleeing. He was returned to the custody of the Department of Corrections to address chemical dependency treatment programming. Mr. Bergeron was offered the opportunity to participate in additional reviews by the Commissioner and Advisory Panel on January 16th, 2018 and January 15th, 2020. He chose not to participate in those reviews. In January of 2025, Mr. Bergeron participated in his review and was continued for 8 months with directives to complete. It is nice to see you here, Mr. Bergeron. I'm glad you're participating. Thank you. Today's review represents his 11th review after serving approximately 37 and a half years of incarceration. Mr. Bergeron's minimum parole eligibility date occurred on September 14th of 2005. Thank you. I turn this matter over to the board. Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bergeron. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'd like to start by asking the standard question, what it is that you'd like to see happen as a result of today's meeting.
I don't know. I come with no expectations, Mr. Shell.
All right. Well, why don't we start with what's happened over the last 18 months?
Okay.
You want to talk about that?
Sure. Do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay. Well, I mean, a lot of things have happened, as you know. The Stillwater's been changed from the closed custody facility and turned into a facility that is going to be closed. So as such, it is now ELU/treatment/ whatever, and keeping it together and keeping it running is the priority. So we have a single master electrician employed by the DOC, tasked with keeping the entire prison running and moving forward. I am, as you very well know, an accomplished journeyman electrician. So I've spent the last 18 months working under that master, correcting your facility, keeping it running, and keeping things and making things better, bringing them to code where possible. Needless to say, I've been very busy.
That's good. I appreciate your work and assistance on that. What about some of the directives that we put in place, like that, you complete treatment based upon the assessment?
So I guess a couple of things. And as you're a busy man, so probably don't remember, but I've written you initially after that, several times about that. The treatment directive itself is, as far as I'm concerned, unfounded. Secondarily, I think Natalia would agree to that to an extent. I talked to her several times, get along very well with her. She's a very good person. But then they lowered it to outpatient treatment. According to her own admission, it's not because of any history I have. It's simply as a result of the DUI I picked up that she has to put a mandate in place of some sort. So I don't have any history. I don't have any struggle. I don't have any desire to use. And irregardless of the horrible mistake that I did make, I won't use again. I don't have them struggles or them issues. And that's illustrated by the lifetime I've spent in prison and majority of time I've spent on the street. I've been monitored continually by ISR and other DOC mandated oversights. The amount of UAs and things that I've taken part of substantiates the fact that there is simply no struggle and no history. So it's just unnecessary. And what I can do, I'm 60 years old. This is my swan song. So all I can do is live my best life, whether it be in here or whether it be on the street. So I'm going to do the very best I can to live that best life and to be a benefit to the people I interact with and those around me.
And so the proposition that you might call it like jumping through hoops is not something you're willing to do, despite the fact that even that outpatient level treatment could be beneficial in terms of learning something. Would you agree that that's possible?
You can always learn something for sure. And that's the journey through life, is to learn and become a better human being and become a better person to the people you interact with. That is the most important thing we can do as humans.
Okay.
But in terms of how it benefits me, it doesn't. And it doesn't benefit, I was, to a degree, it's subterfuge. And this is not on you at all, but when I was on the street, I had a house. I was making $47 an hour with a large commercial electric firm. I was doing very, very well. I had property, I had vehicles, I took care of my entire family. And the DUI was devastating. And when I reported it, and to my PO's own admission, had I not reported it, she would have never known about it. But I'm honest to a fault. When I reported it, she said she was disappointed, very disappointed. But I was doing so well that I should go home and let her know when there's a final adjudication. It was Tom Roy that decided that the complete destruction of my family and my life was the appropriate response to that. So at this point in my life, I'm 60 years old. That life is gone. If I got out tomorrow, I have to start over from day one at 60 years old. I have 13 credits in my social security. I just got that. So if I worked tomorrow, moving forward, it would take me 10 years to possibly collect the minimum social security at 76. So at this point, I'm gonna live my best life wherever I'm at, whether that's in prison or out of prison. And treatment's not gonna facilitate that any better one way or another. And it's not gonna diminish my desire to live well one way or another, or enhance it for that matter.
Okay. All right, yeah, I guess you've made that clear. Okay, I have no additional questions. Anybody else have questions for Mr. President?
I do have a question. Do you have a preference about where you would like to live your best life going forward?
Can you be a little more clear?
Well, you've said a number of times, you're 61, I think,
Yeah,
and you want to live your best life, whether it's in prison or out there. So my question is, do you have a preference of where you want to live your best life, in prison or out there?
you know, ideally, like anybody else, it's better to be out of prison, right? So, but for me, I mean, yes, I want to be out of prison, but for me, it's an uphill battle. You know, I grew up in the streets. I came to prison at 21, and my history isn't great, but it got better as a result of changes, and some of them changes facilitated by the DOC, so I give them credit for that. And I became a much better human being. I became much more skilled. When I got out, I did very, very well. And I look at that with pride. But that's the best I'm ever going to do. It's never going to get better than that in terms of how I can live and what I can accomplish on the street. So when I get out, it'll be the same thing for me. Not that I'm lamenting it, but it'll be the same thing for me. I will go to work and I will work my butt off to pursue a life that's best as possible. I will help my family whenever I can. And then, you know, for the next 10 or 15 years I got left, my main goal is going to, hopefully, despite the wreckage of my past, hear them wonderful words when I take my last breath. Well done, good and faithful servant. And that's my ultimate goal. So yes, if I have a choice, I would be there and do that. But if I'm here, then I will help these people in every way I can. And I would seek to achieve that same goal.
I think what I don't understand, and I appreciate every word you just said. Thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
As I read stuff, and obviously I don't know you, I feel like you do have a choice and you're not choosing it. So I wondered, well, maybe he's afraid of failing again. He just wants to stay in prison.
Absolutely not. And again, with all due respect, had the DOC followed the law and or followed the rules, I would have never been returned to prison. The rules in the law would not allow me to return to prison. You got murderous sex offenders that do not come to prison for new crimes because the rules disallow that. In my case, they didn't follow the rules, so they returned me to prison. Had I been left on the street, as devastating as that choice was, it would have never happened again. As of by now, my house would have been almost paid for, probably. My sister might be alive. My mother might be alive, and people would have, you know, prospered in every way. And granted, the precipice for all of this is my bad decision to celebrate a job promotion in a way that I shouldn't have. and it put me in prison. My bad decision. I'm not putting it on the DLC, but I'm saying as a result of that, these are the things that happen, right? So there's no fear in my success on the street at all. If I get out tomorrow, I will be phenomenally successful. There will not be, for sure, there will not be another mistake here. With the plethora of drugs and chemicals that are prevalent in the DOC. If I had any inclination to do any of that, I could have done it at any time I wanted to. I do not have the inclinations. It was a single mistake. Had I been left on the street, the life would have continued and it would have been very good up till now. So at 60 or 61, it's going to be difficult. Absolutely right. You know, most of you guys at that age are going to retire and you're going to be with your kids and your grandkids and all these wonderful things. And God bless you for it. But what I'll be doing is working my butt off like I did before, probably 6 and 7 days a week, probably 14 to 16-hour days. But that's fine because my ultimate goal, as I've said previously, is to achieve that good end, to achieve that last breath from my king.
Well, I just hope you don't let that one mistake that you made drive your life from this point on, because I do believe you could do what you have to do, get out of here, and still have a good life.
Well, I've been doing it right here, ma'am. I've been doing it right here every single day. I get up every single morning and I live my best life every day, every morning. And like I said, I'm not entirely happy with the way the DOC responded to my violation. But that does not dictate how I live my life. That doesn't dictate what I do every day. What I do every day is get up and say, how can I help? How can I make the people around me better? How can I help the DOC? How can I support the administration and the warden here in my own work? That's what I do every single day. And it's for 11 years, you have a history that documents that.
Thank you.
Mr. Bergeron,
Your mic.
on making your best decision to live your best life. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Every single day. Certainly, we all should do that when we wake up, and you feel that you do that. I know that when you reported your offense, when you were on parole, you were probably trying to do that day as well, and you recognized some risk. You are very dissatisfied with the manner in which DOC responded to that risk, which resulted in your being back in incarceration. You recognized the risk, and I congratulate you for understanding the risk that could have been for you and for others, and for moving forward to report that. Given DOC responded in the way they did, it has been since 2014. And with a choice of either taking the treatment that's been recommended or not, you have also made the choice to remain in incarceration. And it appears as though that is a choice you would continue to make. I wonder if it is important to you to acknowledge the disbenefit to your family and community that they may feel, and how you process that as you continue to refuse the recommended course, and as a result, most likely increase the risk that you will remain incarcerated. How do you process that? Is it of importance to you, the benefit that you could be on the outside to yourself and others, or have you decided no matter? It just doesn't matter, and you would rather continue to refuse than to take that treatment that may be of some benefit and be released?
Well, okay, like I've illustrated before, I think the treatment thing is subterfuge. And uh, if treatment was a concern at all, like I said previously, I worked for a very, very large commercial electrical contractor. So I had very good health insurance. I had very good dental insurance. I had a retirement plan. If treatment was any kind of an issue, then they could have said that. Not only would I have taken it, but I would have paid for that rather than put it on the taxpayer's back. That would have come out of my pocket. And I would have did it willingly and happily. But once I was incarcerated, I was devastated, still hopeful, trying to keep my family housed because I was the only financial person paying for everything. Trying to keep my family housed, trying to sell things, trying to keep them taken care of, trying to keep them protected, telling them, well, listen, my lawyer says 90 days, I can get out, I can get it back together. That didn't happen. It became a revocation indeterminately. So slowly, I've watched my family become unhoused, in the street, property go away, a mortgage go into default. Everything went down the toilet. And then ultimately, I watched my family die in tragic ways. It was devastating to me, devastating. And I don't know if you can truly grasp how devastating that is for the first couple of years I was in prison. And it was like grasping at straws as a drowning man, just trying to help them in any way that I possibly could. Once that's all gone, once that was all over with, and once I could do nothing else, and life was what it was, I had to rebalance, right? Then I had to say, listen, this is out of my control. I have to focus on doing something good, doing something right. So, yeah, I've lost a lot as a result of that. I've lost family. I've lost job. It's unbelievable. So yes, you are right. If I had to spend the rest of my life in prison, that is not tragic to me. I will live it well, and I will do it well till my last breath. Because the wreckage and the carnage that I went through for them 2 years trying to keep my family together ripped my heart to pieces. I was devastated. So doesn't change how I live, doesn't change how I focus. I'm still going to live the best life I can, but I can't do anything for them anymore. That family that's dead. There's nothing I can do for them anymore. And you don't know the pain that's involved there. Nothing I can do for them anymore.
Mr. Bergeron, I think that's a really good key point, and I respect the fact that we probably don't have awareness of the depth of that pain. But I also just want to bring some focus to the fact that you were serving a life sentence for taking another human life, and that when problems, issues in the community devolved, and again, I was not a part of that decision. I don't know all of the details. I just limited seeing the record. There was a decision made to bring you back and require some things in order to get you back out. That hasn't happened. And again, for a host of reasons, some of those conditions that were set by parole authorities, myself included, some of those were created by you, not just electing not to participate in the process. But I don't, the fact that you took a life doesn't mean that, your family should have suffered that, all the pain they went through. At the same time, I just want to ground the fact in this in the reality that you are serving a life sentence, and that that is some of the accountability and the expectation around your behavior. And I applaud the fact that you have and are doing whatever you can inside. But I'm just struck by the fact that despite the fact that you see that there may be some benefit to what you can learn, that it doesn't seem like you're willing to go there, and I have to respect that as well. Other thoughts?
I really kind of echo the sentiment of the other board members. Like on one hand, like the perspective that you present is in some ways it's admirable, and I am appreciative of it. I'll be honest, I think there is talent being, for lack of a better term, wasted. And I am truly hopeful that, through maybe this process or whatever, that you'll not continue to compound. So you said there was a bad decision to celebrate your promotion. And it feels as though that has been compounded by additional bad decisions to, again, not participate in or not follow through with the recommendations that have been made. And I get it. However, life is full of doing stuff that I may not necessarily agree with or may not necessarily want to do, but I do them because I recognize it's in my best interest. It may be in my family's best interest. It may be in society's best interest. So I say this in the hope that you will recognize that what is being asked of you, again, you may not agree with it. I would ask that you really look at it though and determine if taking that stance does more harm to you than good in the grand scheme of things. I really do, because I do think there is opportunity and talent being not fully taken advantage of. And I'll just leave it at that. I don't have questions for you, unfortunately. I think there is talent and opportunity being not fully taken advantage of. I'm not going to say wasted, because I think some of the things you've said, some of what you've said is truly admirable, but at the same time, I think there's more, and I hope it's not too late before that realization sets in. So anyways, my observation.
I'll have a short response. So if you don't mind, bear with me, please. So, yeah, it was a single decision not to do treatment, a single decision. The rest of them, in my opinion, and I think history will show, have been very good. And that decision, even early on, had even Tom Roy said, listen, do treatment, complete it, and here's your PRD, I would have danced into that treatment process, no matter how I felt about it. No matter how much I felt like I didn't need it, I would have danced through it and I would have rose to the occasion. But none of that ever happened. Again, it's subterfuge. Maybe not with Mr. Schnell, but it's subterfuge. I've been doing this a long time, and I've also interacted with people for a long time. What the panel always does is the only two things that are true with the panel. They will find a way to get somebody free, or they will find a way to keep somebody in prison. That's the two true things that happens with the panel. And I'm not casting dispersions and I'm not acclimating it. I'm just stating facts. So yes, you're right. I did make a single decision not to do treatment not because I didn't think I could benefit from it. Maybe I could have. Maybe I could have got some things out of that would have helped me move forward. And had that PRD been set by Mr. Tom Roy, then I would have done everything I can to complete that treatment process while keeping my family together, while keeping them as housed as well as I possibly could, till I could get out and get something done. I get what you're saying, and I agree with you, with the exception of what I've just said. I'm 60 now. There's any life that I have is diminishing each and every day. If I live to be 70, thank God, by the grace of God, I live to be 70. So for 10 years, I will live my best life, whether it's in here or on the street. Could I learn something in treatment and get out in another 2 or 3 years? Maybe. And maybe I could become a little better as a result. But it's not determinative on how well I do on the street or in here. What is determinative is my age and the amount of time I have left.
So here's the irony of that logic, is that I think the last time we met, the objective was to set an 18-month term of continuance to allow for the completion of treatment so that we could be talking about a date. And now what we're talking about is treatment instead of a date. And I just say that because I hear what you're saying. You wanted give me the golden carrot, right? The date, and I'll do
100%.
this. And I think, I think when we structured this last time, as I recall, that was the intent, was to kind of get you through that and have enough time to do that. And then we'd be having a different conversation. So, all right. Mr. Bergeron, I want to just give you a chance here to, before we start talking about like what should be next steps. And this gives you a chance to maybe help shape that conversation. What final comments do you have before we talk about like what should happen going forward?
I don't know if I have final comments,
All right,
Mr. Snell.
that's
I
fine.
mean, my life in terms of since April 12th, 2002, has been pretty clear about how I live it. And since that time, April 12th, 2002, there's been a pretty much a single erroneous decision in that DUI. You referenced 2 previous violations. The one on ICR, I was in my garage working when they came to my front door. Fabian had me out of the county jail in 4 days as a result. The second violation, they changed POs on me, and I had no idea that they changed POs on me. He went to an old address looking for me. And when I called him and I found out there was a warrant for my arrest, and I called him and asked him about it, he lied to me 3 times. I don't know what you're talking about, Joe. There's no warrant for your arrest. What are you talking about? When my wife finally got a hold of the crew that was looking for me, they said, "Oh, your agent put the warrant out." I then called my agent and said, "Listen, they said you put the warrant out." He says, oh, yeah, you're not living where you're supposed to live. I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "What?" I said, "Listen, okay, what do you want me to do right now? What do you want me to do?" He says, "Come in." And I did. I went in, they arrested me immediately and put me in prison again. I spent 2 months in prison. He continued to lie until he finally admitted at the hearing, because my family on the street did some digging and got a hold of the old parole agent and they found the documentation. He finally admitted, oh yeah, I did go to a bad address. And he was living where he was supposed to be. So technically there's no violation, but guess what? I was still put back on ISR. Fine. And I did it, and I completed it again. I have a single bad decision when I went out one night, single. So granted, it's devastating. Granted, you've seen the carnage. I've illustrated it.
Yep.
But it's a single bad decision since April 12th, 2002.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll close this portion of the discussion and turn instead to a board discussion about next. So I'll just say I'm stuck here because I don't think it's a single bad decision. I think it's there's a continuation of the bad decision, and that's just my opinion. I like you, Andrew. I think he's obviously a bright man and articulate and all that kind of stuff. But some of the thinking side of this, even the benefit of participation in some of this stuff, and he wants the payday before he does the work, and I don't think it's unreasonable, and I'd like to craft something that would maximize both his motivation or give him a true choice. And so for purposes of discussion, I would move a denial of his release at this point in time, with the condition that he complete treatment, that he would be seen within 12 months or less if he can complete all of the treatment requirements, and comes to this board with a comprehensive plan of release. That's door number one. And door number two is a 6-year continuance, and at which time he can come in. And I want to make it stark, because I want to maximize this, and obviously that in addition to the completion, I would expect him to be discipline-free, which doesn't seem like it's a huge issue. But I would also just ask him to really, because part of the treatment interest in, for me, is for Mr. Bergeron to be able to really think about his thinking and how it has undermined much of his goals and objectives. That's the motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Further discussion.
Mr. Chair, I would just say that I do hope that Mr. Bergeron will take advantage of the opportunity should the motion pass, as I do believe that there are people in the community. I think, you certainly have other relatives who could welcome you back. And I believe that you could be of great service in the community, as you have found your way to be inside the facility. So I am supportive of the motion and hopeful that somehow a light turns on, or somehow the motivation is found to pursue this avenue. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I echo Ms. Carter's statement. The ball's in Mr. Bergeron's court, and I truly hope takes advantage of it. So anyways.
All right, to the motion, Board Member Bray,
Yes.
Board Member Carter,
Yes.
Board Member Larson,
Yes.
and Schnell votes yes. Mr. Bergeron, choice is yours. We'll certainly work to follow up and make sure that the pathways are created so that you can take advantage of this, but it's up to you. Any questions?
No, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
I just want to confirm I've got this information correct. So conditioned on completing substance use disorder treatment may be seen by the board in a year or maybe less.
Yeah, if, I mean,
And
if.
release.
Yeah, for
Comprehensive release.
plan, and then we'd schedule him to see the board
Yeah.
or see him in 6.
6, correct.
Thank
I
you.
was, I'm sure that asked this question, but all those other conditions are discipline free.
Yeah, discipline free is a standard
Yep.
that we would have in there, but
I hate to say it. I just totally see him dig his heels in. That's just so.
It's the way he thinks, he can't get unstuck.
Oh, you guys, it's a meeting, you have.
Yeah,
It's fine, just asking.
yeah, well, it's just an observation.
Yes.
You got her? Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Cross, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and I'd also like to check in with your advocate and mother.
Yes.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and if I could please get clarification out of respect for your, is it Miss Cross or Miss Heron?
Well, um, I knew Cross is my married name. Heron is my maiden name.
Okay, do you prefer one for this scenario?
Yes, you can say Cross.
All right, thank you for helping me out with that. All right,
Okay,
good
thank you.
afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rebecca Holmes Larson, Executive Officer of Hearings and Release and the Supervised Release Board. We are here today to review David Lee Cross, who is participating through live stream video from the Minnesota Correctional Facility in Stillwater. Mr. Cross also has his mother and advocate participating today. Ms. Cross, thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Here with me at the Minnesota Department of Corrections Central Office is our Commissioner and Chair of the Supervised Release Board, Mr. Paul Schnell, along with board members Andrew Larson, Christine Bray, and Tony Carter. Our records indicate on June 28th, 1996 at 11:25 p.m., Minneapolis officers were dispatched to the area of 22nd Avenue North and Washington Avenue North in Minneapolis. Officers were informed by a witness that there was a car pulled over and the male in the passenger seat was grabbing the hair of a female driver and slapping her. Officers found the male, later identified as David Lee Cross, standing outside the driver's side of the vehicle, reaching in through the open window to where the driver would have been seated. Upon arrival, officers found Heidi Ray Hines lying prone and unresponsive on the sidewalk. She was transported and later pronounced deceased, with the cause of death being consistent with manual strangulation. She also had several noted bruises and cuts on her face. During an interview with Cross, he stated that he had never hit the victim and that she had gone into convulsions and passed out. Through interviews and other individuals, it was noted that there had been several previous occurrences of physical abuse. On December 11th of 1996, David Lee Cross was sentenced to a life sentence for murder first degree while committing domestic abuse with a past pattern of domestic abuse in Hennepin County District Court. Mr. Cross has been previously reviewed by the Commissioner and Advisory Panel once and continued for a future review. Today's review represents his second review after serving approximately 30 years of incarceration. Mr. Cross's minimum parole eligibility date occurred on June 26th of 2026. Thank you. I turn this matter over to the board. Commissioner.
So good afternoon, Mr. Cross. How are you today?
Nervous. but
Nervous?
I'm here to
Okay.
share.
All right, good. Well, let me start with the first standard question I always ask is, can you talk to us about what it is you'd like to see happen as a result of today's meeting?
First, I want to say Commissioner Schnell, ladies and gentlemen of the parole board, thank you for seeing and hearing me today. 30 years ago, before I was sentenced, the judge asked me if there was anything I wanted to say. I said no and I passed. Well, today, before we go any further, I'd like to say words that I should have said 30 years ago today. That I, David Cross, caused the death of Heidi Haynes. A death that should have never, ever have happened. And because of my decision and actions, I brought hurt, pain, and grief to the Haynes family. That's hurt, pain, and grief the Haynes family should have never, ever had to endure. And because of my decision and actions, pardon. Also, I remember Heidi's father, Mr. Haynes, saying to me before I was sentenced that he hopes while I'm incarcerated, I find the necessary help I need to assure that nothing like this ever happens again. And to that, I'd like to say that that is what I have done and am continuing to do. To the Haynes family, Heidi is a daughter, a sister, a granddaughter, and friend. And on June 28, 1996, I made the worst decision in my life. I hold myself totally accountable for the harm and trauma that followed from that night. There are no excuses for my choices. Heidi nor the Haynes family did not deserve to have gone through what I have put them through. I am ashamed of that person I used to be. That person damaged lives and created a ripple that still exists to this very day. To Heidi's mother and father, I want to say that I am sorry for taking your daughter away from you. To Heidi's sisters, I want to say that I am sorry for taking your sister and friend away from you. To Heidi's grandparents, I want to say that I am sorry for taking your granddaughter away from you. To Heidi's friends, I want to say that I am sorry for taking your friend and confidant away from you. And to the Haynes community, I want to say that I am sorry for taking a kind spirit and voice from your community. In my first life, before I was incarcerated, I was a 28-year-old controlling, immature, impulsive, selfish person. My core belief at that time was it's all about me and no one else matters. As I walked that core belief, I did not respect boundaries and I treated people like objects. If you did not walk the path that I was walking, you were dismissed. My thought process was not positive. I allowed my risk thoughts and risk feelings to guide me negatively, which caused my triggers to dictate my unhealthy emotions, to where Heidi Haynes lost her life because of those unhealthy emotions. As I began my incarcerated journey, I knew that something had to change, and that something was me. I did not want to continue being that guy that led me here. The first thing I did was to change that core belief I once walked. Instead of it's all about me and no one else matters, I changed it to the world consists of different people who deserve care, love, and respect. As my core belief changed, I began to rebuild the web of relationships I had damaged. I used to live a life where I enabled people I hung around in a negative manner. I came to the realization that it was time to change that negative into a positive because I wanted people to see the world as I do, caringly, lovingly, and respectfully. Today, I'm a mature 58-year-old who no longer looks at life through the lens of a selfish, controlling, impulsive person. I look at society and I see a mixture of people who all deserve the opportunity to help or be helped. When I'm given a chance, I want to be that helpful hand, that ear to vent to, or the one with a solution. Whatever is needed, I want people to know that I'm your peer and we're here to recover together. So Commissioner Snell, you asked me what would I like to see happen here today? Continue my progress with the step down process.
Let me ask this question. First and foremost, I just want to say, like, your release plan and your letter was really super comprehensive and well done. And, you know, some of the people that you named and as people that have been exemplars that you know are out or on their process are certainly people who are and continue to do well and so I appreciate your connection with them as a support. As you think about the factors, and you talked about control and the path, your mindset, and if you know if you weren't on that mindset, that didn't have that pathway, is your pathway, you were disregarded or objectified, whatever word you want to use to describe it. Let me ask this. Given the dynamics of domestic violence, what specific work have you done or insights have you gained that could ensure me and the board members that you no longer reflect that kind of thinking in terms of a strong or perhaps an intimate relationship. How do we get a sense of the progress you've made in that space?
I would have to say my thought process. When I look back at my first life before I got incarcerated, my thought process was not where it is today. I allowed those risk thoughts and risk feelings to guide me, and I didn't respect boundaries. I always tried to control the conversation. I wanted it to go in a direction that I chose. Today, instead of me hearing a person, I listen. And even if the conversation is not agreeable, I do everything that I can do to make sure that when we separate peacefully and positively. That means that whatever I have to put on the table to make that happen, that's what I do. Respect and boundaries became something I never really knew about in my first life. Today, I understand that everybody has something going on in their life. It's not just about David Cross. And that was my biggest issue in my first life. I always made it about me, what I wanted. And no matter who was on the other end of the conversation, I always try to guide it in the way that I wanted the results. Today, I listen. I don't just hear a person, I listen. And even if they're giving pushback, I accept what's coming to me. I don't try to direct the conversation. I don't try to direct the emotion of the conversation. I'm listening. Over my 30 years of walking through the halls of the DLC, I had opportunities to practice that thought process. Now, in the beginning of my journey, I stumbled a couple times, but after that last stumble, I got up and I told myself, David, you have to walk forward. That means that you have to listen to what's being said to you. Don't try to direct the conversation. Listen to it and respect it. From that moment forward, I've been walking forward. Now, that's to say that a lot of things have been taking place around me through my walk in the halls of the DLC. But the one thing I made sure that I would do was not try to control one person, and that was myself.
Okay, thank you for that. If David Cross was out in the community and things were not going well, how would people around you know it? What would it look like?
I think for myself, I allowed myself to stop and think about the process. You know, before it can get anywhere out of hand, I always ask myself, David, what's the best scenario you can put on the table to dissolve whatever's taking place? Now, that's not to say that there won't be pushback coming my way. But over the course of my 30 years, I've learned how to see a red flag coming my way. And for me, I'll try to dissolve it. If not, I step aside and get out of the way. Now, out there in the world, I understand it changed over the last 30 years since I've been incarcerated. And you have different people out there living different lives. But for me, I challenge myself to not go and try to dictate what's in front of me. Whomever's on the other end of the conversation that I'm having, I do my very best to try and make sure that when we separate from that conversation, we separate peacefully and positively. And that's not coming from their end, it's coming from my end. So, like I said, I know there will be tough times. It's just that I fought so hard and I refuse to allow those tough times to revert me back to who I used to be. So I do my best to make sure that I stay positive no matter what's the situation. I know that's a tough ask, but that's one I have worked on for the past 30 years, and thus far, I think I've done a hell of a job at it. So it bothers me none of the environment. I will continue to give the same positive progress forward.
Okay, last thing. just, you talked a little bit about your victim's father.
Yes.
Challenging you, suggesting whatever that interaction was. What do you feel that you continue to owe your victim's family?
To continue to put the best version of me out in society. I always tell myself that I've come a long way from who I used to be 30 years and back, but it's not a finished product. Now, even though I'm this version of me sitting in front of you all right here today, I still have work ahead of me. The tools that I've gathered over the past 30 years have helped me become this man that I am right here today. But I'm always looking to strengthen those tools. I'm always looking to add new tools because I know the journey is continuing.
I lied. I have one more question. That question was simply, over the last 30 years, have you been ever able to get to a point where you can explain why you did what you did?
Today I can explain that, and yes, I have. I acted out of a way that when I look back over these 30 years that I've been incarcerated, I've always looked back to that night. And at that time in my life, I was such a controlling guy that when Heidi told me that she didn't answer the phone because she was in a tub, I automatically went to a mindset to where I accused her. And I didn't listen to what she was telling me. Instead, I interjected my own opinion into the conversation. And regardless of what she was telling me, I assumed it was something else. And as I assumed it, I allowed those emotions to go haywire. And before I knew, I was acting on those emotions.
And that was not a first, right? That pattern. There was issues before.
Yes, there were.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Other board members?
Mr. Cross,
Yes, ma'am.
you've described a change that happened, and clearly you've been here a while. That change has taken place over a long period of time. And there was no magic wand. There wasn't
Yes, ma'am.
immediate gratification or satisfaction for making that change. It seems that because of the person you were, the things you had done, and the ultimate offense that you committed, which was so egregious, that you are now describing what was actually a metamorphosis, a dramatic process of change. I know that you've had courses and have taken advantage of things in the institution that have helped you in this process, education and the like. Can you tell me, describe for us what caused that metamorphosis, the process? What caused it? What sustains you in it?
Right.
And also, can you share what risk factors may exist that you recognize and how you manage to them? I'm
Okay.
sorry for such a long question,
That's
but
okay.
it's all about that
That's
process
okay.
that you're in.
Well, when I walked into Stillwater Prison in December of '96, that was my first time ever being incarcerated. And when I walked in, I told myself, no matter what it looks like when I walk out of here, I'm not walking out of here the same guy I was coming in. And when I made that decision, I knew that I had to reprogram myself, so to speak. And that was going to take every positive opportunity that was presented to me to build on. In the beginning, it started with education. When I got to Oak Park, I got my associate's arts degree. And that was just a taste for me because I was proud of doing something positive. And for the first time in my adult life, it wasn't done for anyone but for me. So as I started to walk forward, I wanted more of that. Now, as I began to do programs, it gave me insight as to who I once was. Now, I had never had that before in my adult life. When I walked out of my house, that's what I saw, everything negative. And because of that, that's what I gravitated towards. But because I wasn't a part of that anymore, I had the opportunity to build on positive programming. And at program after program, I absorbed the information that was being shared to me. And as I absorbed it, I enjoyed it. It got to a point where I began to see the change within myself. And as I saw that change, I wanted more of it. Now, today I sit here and I tell myself, I'm so far removed from that guy that I was, but it's not a finished product. And I always tell myself there is more to gain. Now, whatever that day looks like, and I walk back out there in that world, I told myself that I would not be that guy I was coming in here. Now, as far as the risk factors goes, I think for myself, the risk factors would be old friends, trying to convince myself that I could hang out and that lifestyle that I once used to live. Telling myself that I can step this sideways and convince myself that I can go back to being just a little bit of me. You know, I've always told myself, I don't want any parts of me that I used to be. So the programs I've been a part of gave me a lot of knowledge, a lot of tools that I built upon. And I always told myself, those tools are not finished. There are other programs out there that I'm looking forward to being a part of. And as I become a part of those programs, they give me coping skills to cope, to offset those risk factors that I know will be there. But as long as I stay positive, I continue to be a part of programs, and I absorb the information that's being shared with me, I can continue to build on those tools and offset those risk factors.
One final question, if I may.
Yeah.
Thank you for indulging the questions. I would also like to ask you how you reflect on your ability and deserving of being on this side of the ground as opposed to that of the life that you took and the inability of that person to be here today.
For me, I don't think there is enough words that I could actually say that could take away that harm and that pain that I caused the Haynes family. Every day I tell myself, David, you have to work harder at being better. Every day I tell myself, when I walk out of my cell, no matter what's the situation going on around me, continue to walk forward. Don't go sideways, never go backwards. Continue to walk forward. I know that there are going to be a lot of chaos and hectic life going on around me. I mean, even in here, it's a sample size of what's going on out there in the world. But I always tell myself, for the past, I think it's 20-something years since my last discipline, I've walked through all of that chaos and that hecticness, and I've allowed myself to stay focused on what it is I want to accomplish, and that's being a better version of myself. Now, whatever that day looks like and I step back out there in the world, I know it gets even more crazier. But I always tell myself, David, you know what you have to do. Continue to walk forward. Never look backwards. Regardless of what's going on around you, continue to put the better version of yourself out there. Thank you.
Other questions?
I have a question, Mr. Cross. Could you talk a little bit about, let's just say you get stepped down today.
Yes, ma'am.
When you get out, could you talk about your release plan? I know your mother, I think, is in Chicago.
Yes, ma'am.
And it sounds like you have quite a support system here
Yes, ma'am.
in Minneapolis, I guess. And just in terms of what you said about risk factors, like maybe I'd want to hang out with some of my old buddies. And that made me wonder, where are they? So could you just talk about your release plan when you someday get out of here?
Okay. Well, I made one for Minnesota and Chicago. First back home in Chicago, my mom is still in the house that I grew up in. And at some point, she wants to pass it on to me to continue the legacy that she started. The house is in a neighborhood that I grew up in, of course. As far as the people that I once was a part or hung out with, I'm not even sure if they're still alive. I don't know if they're not in the neighborhood anymore, but I don't know if they're alive. So that's not my focus. My focus would be continuing to carry my mom's legacy. As far as Minnesota goes, my support group here, like Commissioner Snell said, would be a few of the ex-life, not few, but the ex-lifers that have gotten out and have done positively out there in the world. We have this connection to where it's no man get left behind. And I know that whatever that day looks like, and I do step back out there, they will be there to assure me that going forward, this is what you do. And because they have that experience and that knowledge, that is something that I will listen to and allow myself to follow, because that's what they're doing.
Do you have a preference between Chicago and here?
Well, eventually, Chicago will be the final destination. But whatever decision you all come up with, that's the decision I will follow.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cross, I wanted to follow up a little bit with, and it actually kind of touches a little bit on one of the questions that Tony had asked you, and it's around the idea of fairness.
Yes.
So how do you, and I guess I'm kind of looking for your insight. So how do you respond to the idea of, how is it fair that you have the opportunity to be released back into the community, to have gone to school, gotten your associate's degree while you're incarcerated, and done those things, while the victim and the family members have not had those same opportunities? So I'd just be interested to know, like, what insight do you have into that sort of idea?
Okay. Well, for me, I don't think it will ever be fair to say that me going forward can give any kind of an explanation as to the harm and the pain that I caused. As I said before, I know there are not enough words in the English language that I can use to try and ease that hurt and pain that I caused the Haynes family and their community. It's just that going forward, I know that action-wise, I'm gonna do everything that I can to assure them as much as I possibly can that that kind of hurt and pain that I brought forth on June 28th, 96 will never happen again from David Cross. Again, fairness, I cannot put me and the harm and the pain that I caused the Haynes family in the same sentence, because it's not fair. I caused someone they cared and loved about very dearly their life. For the past 30 years, I've worked diligently to make sure that going forward, that never happens again from David Cross. And as I said before, I just cannot put me and the harm that I caused in the same sentence as fair. I just have to continue to be the better version of myself going forward and assure that that never happens again.
All right, thank you for that. Last question for me. One of the things that I wrote down is, and these are my words, not yours, so I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit, but you had referenced that kind of one of the things that led you down the path a little bit that ended with the murder was, you know, kind of following family and friends. And again, those are my words, not yours. So what, can you talk to me a little bit about that? And then what assurances there, like what do you have in place to ensure that that sort of thing doesn't happen in the future, assuming you are released? And how do you ensure that you don't start to make exceptions that kind of slowly take you off of the path that you have been on largely for the 30 years, which have been, you know, very much discipline free by the book, and that became more wordy than I intended, and so I apologize. But if you could just talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Back in my first life, when I walked out of my house, out into streets I grew up in, I saw a lot of chaos. I saw a lot of domestic violence, drug selling, drug usage. But as I hung out in those things, I became a part of those things. Now, I enabled people just as people enabled me. But it went hand in hand. And for the past 30 years, I've gotten away from all of that because of me being incarcerated, of course. But I had the opportunity to replace that life that I saw, that life that I thought I couldn't live without. I had an opportunity to replace that with positive programming, with positive people. And as that grew, I began to enjoy sitting and talking circles, because to me, in order to be a better version of myself, communication is key. And when I look back at my first life, I didn't communicate a lot. I kept a lot of things inside. I was silent. And they always say silent is a deadly killer. For myself, I told myself that no matter what takes place going forward, I have to continue to communicate. And as I sat in talking circles, I listened to other people share with me. I always told myself, I invest in people now. I do my very best to try and talk to the guys that I'm incarcerated with and convince them that changing the narrative of their journey for better is the only positive answer we can come to. It helps you stop the recidivism. It helps you stop from coming back to prison. I was in Moose Lake for 9 years, so I saw the ratio turn over consistently over there. And I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of guys over there. And as we sat in talking circles, I shared my journey with them, convincing them to change the narrative of your journey for better is the only answer you can come to. It stops you from coming back to prison. They would sit there and listen to me and tell me, Cross, how do you be such a positive guy after doing all of this time? I share with them because I'm determined. I'm determined to not be that guy I was on June 28th, 96 and back. And in order for that to take place, I have to put a lot of work in myself. So going forward, in my release plan, I put a lot of programs that was either same or similar to the programs I was a part of while I'm incarcerated. I always told myself that I enjoy sitting in those programs and in those talking circles because I get to listen to people share and I get to share. And I always told myself, one day, whatever that day looks like, and I'm sitting out there in a talking circle, I will probably be the only guy that will sit in that talking circle and say that I've been incarcerated for 30 years. Here's the reason why, and this is the reason what you do to make sure that doesn't happen to you. At one point in my journey, I held back from speaking about that. Today, I speak about that because I tell myself it's not just about me. no matter who is on the other end of that conversation, if I can help them in any positive way, I'm gonna do my best to.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to turn to your mom. Ms. Cross, thank you so much for being here. I just want to open the floor for you to provide whatever thoughts you have to the board.
Okay, I'm nervous and I've never did this before, but I do know that I love my son, and after listening to him, I think he has a lot of remorse. I think he has learned a powerful lesson, and I love him. I never thought I would be going through anything like this, not from David Lee Cross, because he's always been a good son. He went through high school, he went through college, he went to the Army Reserve, and I just never thought anything like this would happen. I know I love my son, and I know I need my son, and and I know the other family does too. But I think when if he should be able to come home, that he is a totally different person. I can tell from the sound, he is a totally different person. And David never been a trouble. He's never been a trouble son. Never. I don't know. I just never. I couldn't see this happening. I couldn't see this coming. I don't. I know I love my son. I need my son. I'm up in my old age now. And I need my son, my one and only son. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Ms. Cross, I think you were quite articulate and clear about where you sit with your son and the change you see and hear in him. So thank you for that. And I would
Yes.
just say that being up in age is relative a term as somebody who is himself up in age. So I just know that.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Cross, I want to give you one last opportunity here to make your statement, final statement to the board about where we are and what you'd like to see happen before we begin deliberation. And so I would open the floor to you at this time for that.
Thank you. As you all deliberate, I just want to say, I know that this procedure is about me moving forward, and I know all that, but I want to direct my final comments to the Haynes family and community. Like I said, I know that there are not a amount of words that I can use and say that can ease the pain and hurt that I caused their family and community. But every day, I assured myself that going forward, I will continue to work very hard at being the best version of myself. And that no matter what takes place, whatever that day looks like, and I walk back out there in the world, I will introduce that world to this David, not that David that I was on June 28th, 96 and back. And again, I know those words will not ease the pain and the hurt, the trauma that I caused the Haynes family and their community. But I am going to assure that action-wise, I am going to continue to work diligently to never be that guy I was on that date.
Thank you. With that, I'll close this discussion and open the floor instead to the discussion of the board around next steps and the plan for Mr. Cross.
Well, I would make a motion that he begins step down. And if possible, go to Red Wing or Lino. I think he said he wanted to use he could use his licenses there. Some money management, because he expressed that might be something he needs. And during the time that he's here in Minnesota, that he does get hooked up with an organization that can help with adjustment and transition, because he's got a big adjustment and transition coming up eventually.
All right.
Do you have a prospective time frame that you're looking at?
I guess I was thinking 18 months to accommodate minimum and work release.
I'd second that motion.
There is a motion and a second. Further discussion. I would just like to add a couple, things like, some aftercare, continue AA, whatever that looks like. I would also just encourage him to use some resource and work with behavioral health perhaps around just beginning to have conversations around what does relationships look like in the community, and navigating and manage that, so that there's some planning and thought around that, given what his offense was. And I think, it's important to note that today, had this fact pattern been in place, this would have been a life without parole case. I say that for no reason. It has no bearing on this, but I think it just speaks to the severity of the offense, given the history and pattern of abuse. And so just want to make sure that he is fully kind of prepared for, navigating that as he does this. Obviously remain discipline free. I would encourage the teams that would let them look at the step down locations. Are you thinking 9 months per hit roughly?
Well, I roughly thought 8. Yeah, I guess I didn't think it out that much. I was reflecting back when we've done step down before. It seems like we do continue 18 months. So I think whatever it takes to.
So let's, it will take a little bit to get moved to minimum, and figure out where, the best bed spot is. I can take, 45 to 60. So, but I would like to see him have at least 8 months in work release, just because I think that will be an important time for planning, either interstate transfer, or remaining here and that kind of stuff. But it also, I just think is important. So those would be some of the additions, if that's acceptable.
Yes.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Any further issues? Otherwise, we'll take a vote. To the motion, Board Member Brake.
Yes.
Board Member Carter.
Yes.
Board Member Larson.
Yes.
And Schnell votes yes. The motion passes unanimously. So, Mr. Cross, you have heard your fate here. This is a step down. And we certainly want and expect that you will continue to do what you need to do. That timeline will be figured out. You will work with your program team there to help develop a plan as to where the best spot is. And some of that will be bed-based, is it Lino or Red Wing? I know you also said stay at the ELU. It just makes you a little bit of a unique anomaly. Not that people aren't doing that, more of the traditional minimum side, but it'd be nice to have you in a place where there's some life or community that are also going through step down, because it's an opportunity for you to support one another as you're going through those changes. But we'll leave that to the teams there to work with you and figure out the best plan. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. I wish you well. Good luck. Continue the hard work.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, that concludes our hearing schedule for today. We do have one other item of new business. And that is a board consideration of an application for discharge from parole. And it's the request is made from Vava Gaddafi, I believe is how it's pronounced. The board does have, in this case, the statutory authority to grant discharge from an indeterminate sentence or parole. We do that now as a matter of policy, where there is, the person is on supervision for a minimum of 10 years. Unless there is some other grave medical condition or other compassionate discharge rationale, and that the last 7 years minimally must be discipline-free. Obviously, the agents weigh in heavily. In this case, the person has been on supervision for 10 years and 10 months. There was some issue back in 2013 with phone numbers not matching. There was a period of time where they were sent back that was, again, about back in 2013. And I believe the agent is supportive of this discharge. Any questions, or does anyone have a thought about?
Is the victim information in there as well? Did you all receive everything? Okay, thank
the
you.
packet? Does the board have a desire?
Well, I would move parole.
The discharge?
Yeah.
There is a motion to discharge. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There is a motion and a second. Any discussion? To the motion, Board Member Bray,
Yes.
Board Member Carter,
Yes.
Board Member Larson,
Yes.
and Schnell votes yes. The discharge from parole supervision is granted. We will make the date effective July 1 of 2026. All right. The only other item of business we have is we need a motion to approve the June 9th meeting minutes, and I believe only the two of us are available to vote on this one.
So I'll make a motion to approve.
So just a question of rules. We have a motion and a second, but do we have the ability to act based on not have, Cheryl would be the quorum
Right.
breaker in terms of being able to vote this in? I don't know what the Robert's rules require in this case.
Other than your vote counts more in all other decisions. So I don't know if that matters or not.
He gets two.
The divide, I get the divider.
Yeah,
right?
you get, yeah.
So where the weight gets.
Yours is
put.
weighted different.
We can bring it to the next meeting.
Let's just do it,
Sounds good.
because I don't have the book on Robert's rules here with me, so I'm not sure. So we'll hold that and carry that over to approve at the next meeting. The next meeting of the board is Friday, July 17th, here at the Department of Corrections. And with that, I would accept the non-debatable motion to adjourn. Second,
Second.
and we are adjourned.